As we reported a few minutes ago, now the Associated Press has confirmed it. Originally, we had it just from Fox News in Minneapolis or in St. Paul, that apparently Governor Dayton has caved in to or given in, or whatever the appropriate phrase is, gone along with the Republicans in the state of Minnesota to stop the shutdown of the government. And, I find it ironic that just an hour earlier, we were reporting that any day now, today, tomorrow, the next day, they're going to run out of beer in Minnesota because the government isn't there to authorize the licenses for beer purchases. And the bars will have to stop selling beer. And we were speculating, will this be the end of the shutdown? Well, apparently it is. So will the end of the shutdown, if the budget negotiations in Washington, D.C. lead to a shutdown of some kind, are we going to have to run out of beer to end it, to wrap it up? Congressman Steve King of Iowa, the Republican from Iowa, on the line with us. He is his website, of course, is steveking.house.gov. He tweets at stevekingia, as in Iowa. And welcome back, Congressman.
Thanks for having me back. And what a nice, smooth segue into this discussion, Tom. I'm just wondering, isn't it the beginning of the growth of the home brew industry in Minnesota, and then they make a deal?
There you go. That is a take on it that I hadn't considered. Maybe Mark Dayton could have forestalled the deal by getting some out-of-state organization that offers home brewing kits to come into the state and give them some kind of subsidy or something. Help people out.
Advice from Iowa. A very profound thing that we all know there is that beer is a value-added ag product.
There you go. And, the problem is, though, that Mark Dayton is facing is that they're running out of beer today or tomorrow, and it takes, about 2 weeks to make a batch of beer?
That I don't know. I'm not that close to the industry.
Yeah. Well, I used to have a friend who made beer in his garage, and so, anyhow, it's a couple of weeks, I'm pretty sure. Anyhow, I'm curious. 3 Republican presidents ran up $9 trillion in debt. And now they don't want to pay the bill. If you, Congressman, or I ran up $100,000 on our credit cards and then said to the credit card companies, I will only pay this bill if you give me an all-expense-paid trip to Disneyland for me and 15 of my friends, I think we'd end up in jail.
We kind of have a different perspective. I'm just so amazed to know this. And it comes a little bit the other way, and that is, yes, there has been too much money spent in the past. I don't doubt that, and I don't know your numbers,
by your Ronald Reagan, by your George Herbert Walker Bush, and by your George Bush, $9 trillion. Why don't you guys want to pay your own bills?
By our presidents of the United States who have signed the appropriation from our Congress throughout those years, I might add,
who submitted the budgets. There has never been a time in the last 100 years when a budget submitted by a president has varied from what was passed by Congress by more than 1.2%.
And what we've seen is under George Bush's leadership, significant deficits. I remember one in the middle of the Iraq War that was $160 billion in deficit spending. I'm looking for a balanced budget, and I can't even find one here in the floor of the House for a number of those years. And now I'm seeing a $1.6 trillion deficit with the Obama administration. And so I think it's 10 times the problem we had, and we should have fixed it before. Now we must, Tom. That's where the
So why not start out by, you had 3 Republican presidents who made it look like we had good times by spending $9 trillion they didn't have, that they borrowed from this generation right now and from overseas. Why don't we start out by paying down the debt of those 3 Republican presidents who made it look like times were good just by spending like drunken sailors?
And how do you pay down that debt from that as opposed to borrowing money into the future and increasing the debt now at a rate of 10 to 1?
You roll back the Reagan tax cuts. This all began with the Reagan tax cuts. Reagan took the top tax rate on millionaires and billionaires from 74% down to 28%. When Reagan came into office, corporations were paying about 30% of the total revenue that's going into the federal government. Right now, they're paying 6%. You roll back the Reagan tax cuts, and within 10 years, you will have the debt paid off.
How did Bill Clinton balance the budget in the mid-'90s?
He raised taxes by 3%.
Well, a minor percentage of what the overall tax cuts were under Reagan.
You're right. If you roll back the Reagan tax cuts, you'd have a surplus, and that surplus could be used to pay off the money that Reagan borrowed.
That's saving the money on the feed bill that feeds the golden goose, or the goose that lays the golden egg.
Are you saying that the rich people are the goose that lays the golden egg?
I'm saying that Here's one thing that's wrong in Republican messaging. The question has been for a long time, where are the jobs? And where are the jobs? Well, I'd ask, where are the profits that have to be at least anticipated before jobs are created?
The profit. Well, first of all, American companies. First of all, American companies are sitting on $2 trillion. All of that money came as profits originally. That's all after-tax money. And secondly, they're sitting on multiple trillions of dollars overseas. So where the profits are, they're sitting in the coffers of the corporations. It's not a question of profits, though. Profits don't cause companies to hire employees. Customers do. And so the question is, where are the customers? The customers are broke because 30 years of Reaganomics have broke them. We have destroyed the American middle class with outsourcing, with these insane trade policies that say that, hey, we're actually going to give you a tax break if you want to shut down your factory here and open one in China or Vietnam. That's nuts.
We have a different philosophy on what drives the economy. I do not believe it's consumer-driven. I believe it's production-driven. But when we get to the industry and what's happened with our industry, I think we have, in some cases, pushed and allowed it to happen. We've transferred our industry overseas to places like China. Then we borrowed the money from the Chinese to buy the products made by the Chinese and brought them back into the United States and said, I think we did real good because now we can buy our products cheaper here at Walmart. I don't agree with that approach. I think we need to have industry here, and where you make things is where jobs are, and there has to be profit in order for that to happen. And that's why I'm a fair taxer.
Well, this has nothing to do with taxes. This has to do with, unless you want to talk about tariffs. In 1791, Alexander Hamilton proposed import tariffs. 1793, Congress passed it. From 1793 until the Clinton administration, we had average import tariffs around 20%. They'd been as high as 45%. They'd been as low as 19%. But they averaged in the mid-20s throughout that entire period of time. And it was the time of the greatest industrial expansion in the United States in history. As soon as those tariffs went away, so did all the jobs.
Well, this does have something to do with taxes. And in the modern era is a different shift. And the 16th Amendment is what allowed for the income tax, which I believe needs to be repealed. I'll say this: we can gain, and this would be union jobs, non-union jobs, industrial growth in the United States. We can gain a 28% marketing advantage over foreign countries if we take the embedded tax out of the products that we make, and we do that by eliminating the IRS and going to a consumption tax.
Come on.
That's good for all people in America.
At the end of the day, taxes are taxes. But if you're saying that making rich people richer is going to make them into the goose that's going to lay more golden eggs, why is it that when Dwight Eisenhower was president, or when Jack Kennedy was president, or when Lyndon Johnson was president, and the top tax rate was 91%, or when Richard Nixon was president, the top tax rate was 74%, those geese were laying far more eggs than they have since Ronald Reagan crashed the taxes?
I don't know that the geese were laying far more eggs, but it's a mystery to me why anyone paying 91% in taxes would get out of bed in the morning and contribute any more than they are.
Well, what they do is they say, I think instead of taking more than because they don't pay 91% taxes on every single penny, only on the money over $3 million a year. So they say, I think I'll just take a $3 million paycheck. That's enough. I can live on that. And I'll leave the rest of the money in the business, and the business will reinvest and it'll hire more people. And that's how it worked for 30 years.
But Thom, this is it. There's some of the approach that you bring reflects some of the tone of the zero-sum game philosophy, and I would argue that rich people getting rich has built wealth and capital in America.
But it hasn't.
We have trillions of dollars sitting on the sideline.
But it hasn't.
If we didn't.
Congressman King, it hasn't.
A survival barter society if we didn't have people building capital. I want them to get rich, and then I want them to hire people like me, or I want to have access to that capital if they're not using it at a cheap interest rate.
Okay, well, good luck with that. SteveKing.house.gov. I get it. We have a different worldview. Thank you very much, Congressman King, for coming on and talking about it.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.